kind of the first big story out there right now is Google just continuing to push post Warren Buffett buy. Would have been about 10 days ago that he announced that went into that. Kind of crazy to think, Warren Buffett, obviously known as a deep value investor. Normally he's looking to buy these stocks that are beat down value plays, and historically has kind of shied away from technology. I mean, he's held Apple forever, but not really what you would consider a kind of a tech guy, more of kind of boring businesses, etc. But took that position on Google. Now, one thing I do want to mention is I was on Schwab TV on Halloween. I did forget my costume, by the way. I've got this cool bull mask, but I forgot it. I couldn't find it. So anyway, on Halloween, about 2 weeks before Warren Buffett announced his buy, I was on Schwab and I'm like, listen, I love Google. Was in the 280s at the time. Was up big, parabolic chart. I stand by my position that we're a long way from AI being in a bubble. And Google is really starting to take the lead. OpenAI, they got some stuff going on over there, some interesting things. And the latest version of Gemini really looking very strong against a lot of these competitors. And then what I like about Google is, they're not that AI pure play. I mean, they've got lots of other business lines, lots of other revenue sources that they can take that revenue and drive it into development of AI, where OpenAI, and I'm not bashing OpenAI, but they're kind of a one-trick pony. All they have is, is ChatGPT, and that's it. Where Google and other names that come to mind, like Microsoft, I mean, they have strong offerings and other revenue streams. But that being said, when I called Google a buy, it was 280. When Warren Buffett's buy kind of hit the mainstream, it was about 300. And a lot of people are like, I can't believe, right here's the gap up when Warren announced. But a lot of people are like, I can't believe Warren's buying a parabolic chart. He's buying into the bubble. Well, it's up about, $20 a share from the point where everyone was saying Warren's buying the top. And listen, not that he's never wrong, but he's seldom wrong, and I think he's totally right on this one. So love Google. It's kind of my number one AI long-term idea on top of NVIDIA. Now, NVIDIA, we talked about this a lot. Speaking of Schwab TV, it was on there talking about that Michael Burry short squeeze. Day to day it comes and goes. He's up a little bit. He's tweeting about, being the smartest guy ever. Then NVIDIA rages back and he disappears. Kind of funny how that works. We'll see. Burry obviously got the housing crisis right, but outside of that, few and far between. Famously said, sell everything 3 years ago, and the S&P is up, massive amounts in the past 3 years. So NVIDIA's that obviously kind of go-to for GPUs. Now, one of the reasons Google is moving is because of the TPU story is starting to emerge, and a lot of people talking about that could, kind of put a dent in NVIDIA. But my thing is there is just so much demand. You saw last night, the president announced that executive order for the AI directive. They're calling it basically the AI Manhattan Project. I mean, to me, it's just crazy that you would consider that we're just, a couple years into this to call it a bubble yet. Now, again, if these stocks continue to go and go and go and go, at some point you're going to get pullbacks. But I've called this, going back a year ago. I started saying, I think AI is the greatest technology in the history of mankind. Bigger than the wheel, bigger than fire, bigger than the internal combustion engine, electricity, on down the line. We're a long way from this bubble popping. So just kind of running through some of the other headlines we've got just about 25 minutes ago. Let me jump back. Bitcoin, again, you guys know I'm a long-term bull. Bitcoin called it a buy back at 80,000 back in the spring, was on Cheddar and everyone was freaking out about Bitcoin, I was like, buy the dip. Obviously went into the 120s. Here we are back into the 80,000s. I consider this, as long as 80K holds, always buy dips. Kind of back that up. Texas, state of Texas, became the first state to buy Bitcoin, investing 10 million into its strategic reserve. Listen, 10 million bucks, that's kind of, I mean, I'm not saying that's not a lot of money, but when you're talking about a state with the economy that Texas has, the kind of amount of money, etc., and when you consider how big the Bitcoin market is, 10 million, it's a drop in the bucket, but it's a good headline. It's interesting to see. And speaking of buying the dip, they didn't buy Bitcoin a month ago when it was at 120. I'm guessing whoever's making the decisions over there decided, let's wait for a dip on this thing. Speaking of actionable trades today, CETY. So this was alerted by the Oracle algorithm at a $1.78 this morning. And then I sent it out as a short squeeze idea midday. A lot of you guys in the Daily Income Trader, I go live at noon. So right here, back here, I was live. You can see that stock was just trading in the 180s, 190s. We recognized that 201 would bring the panic covers, the basically forced buying by short sellers. I mean, this chart pattern that you look for, and let me jump over there on CETY. Total squeezy type pattern. You see that big spike up, and then look at this just grind. It's like having your hand in the meat grinder as a short seller. And then it broke 201 and immediately went into the 280s, and then about 30 minutes later went in the 290s. Now this would be, low float stocks, only day trades. We had goals in the 240s, 250s, 260s. Always stick to those goals, follow those, because these stocks do reverse quickly. So because of that, you always want to respect the profit targets, because you can see right now, CETY starting to pull back. Let me jump over to the StocksToTrade X account. By the way, I'll make sure to follow Twitter/StocksToTrade, all laid out. We've really been bringing the heat lately. Breaking news, actionable trades, headlines, etc. And speaking of that, Warren Davidson says the U.S., not Texas, should fund its Bitcoin reserve by accepting taxes in Bitcoin. I'm a long-term Bitcoin holder. I'd rather use my rapidly depreciating US dollars to pay my taxes, but that's interesting. It's a good idea. I mean, why not? Why not accept Bitcoin for tax payments and then put that into a reserve for all of us? I mean, if we get a national reserve, we're all Bitcoin holders at that point. Alphabet's on track for a $4 trillion valuation. It's kind of funny. You go back to 2018 when Apple broke the 1 trillion point and everyone was like, $1 trillion market caps. And here we are, NVIDIA, Apple, Alphabet. I mean, 1 trillion's like nothing these days. Fed Governor Stephen Moran says the U.S. economy calls for not just rate cuts, large interest rate cuts. Now, I'm pro rate cuts. I think rates have been high long enough. It's kind of put a stall to the housing market. I think it's time. And, we had some economic numbers this morning that didn't look that great, but kind of interesting to see that quote. He didn't just say, now again, he's just one governor. They have to decide as a committee, but he didn't say quarter rate. He said large rate cut. So nice to see. Going back to those numbers, again, kind of unimpressive. And then now we got to wait for all the way until December to get the Q3 GDP numbers. And then the PCE and personal income for September. We will have that on December 5th. And really, for those of you short-term trading, etc., we're just watching those data points mainly to see what the Fed is going to do with rate cuts, because lower rates, all these small cap stocks that we play, They're desperate for money. Lower rates means they can get access to some cash and then pump their stocks and we can day trade them. Last point I will wrap up is kind of where I started. President Trump introduced that AI executive order called the Genesis Mission. Kind of cool name. And that's that nationwide initiative aimed at rapidly advancing AI with ambitions comparable to the Manhattan Project. So love these AI stocks still. I remember when I say buy the dip, that doesn't mean you buy the dip with no stop loss. You always have to have a trade plan, respect that trade plan. But I just think with all of this shakiness in NVIDIA and Meta, everyone's looking at Google. I say the ship has sailed at Google. You should have bought it back on Halloween when I was told you to buy it on Schwab TV versus now when it's $40 a share higher than what I called it out and a lot higher from where Warren Buffett called. So that ship has sailed. But NVIDIA, Meta, AMD down a little bit. Very interesting for those dip buy opportunities. And that being said, last point, I know I've mentioned Schwab TV a lot, but every week they gave me a regular spot on Fridays at 11:10 a.m. Had some bangers, man. I've been doing it for about 6 weeks, mostly focused on higher priced, higher quality stocks. They don't really like penny stocks over there at Schwab TV. I don't blame them. Their demographic isn't really interested in penny stocks. But definitely check that out, 11:10 a.m. every Friday, and then send them an email. They've hinted that they might give me my own show on Schwab TV, which I think it'd be fun. I'd probably get canceled in a month, but I'd have a fun month. We'd all have some fun. One of the reasons they keep having me back is just shoot straight. A lot of these guys, you watch some of this stuff on financial media, it's all just, it's literally like alphabet soup or Charlie Brown's parents. Like you watch some of this stuff and it's like, I don't even know what this guy's saying. Where I'm a normal person, a normal trader, speak like a normal person. So people really seem to resonate with that. So shoot them an email. Say, tell them, give me my show. That way I can get canceled a month later. And most importantly, give a follow to the StocksToTrade X channel. Again, it's all spelled out, StocksToTrade.com. Watch for the imposters, okay? And then also, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube yet, be sure to do that. Ring that bell. We're working on more and more of these kind of real-time ideas, plus the video lessons, talking about some podcasts. Bryce Toohey and Matt Monaco have been doing live trading on the channel. I tell you, very, very proud of the channel. Make sure you turn on those notifications so that you know whether it's a video lesson, whether it's a real-time update like this, or even live trading. Awesome wealth of information on the channel.